Got fired.
And what here, just briefly.
Yeah,
in this little redacted part, he's asking like, oh, just briefly tell me about her mental issues. And there's a lot to break down in what she says, but essentially she's trying to tell him that she's saying that I have borderline personality disorder, which no, okay, like she has been telling people that for years, and the whole breakdown and path of that is its own. We have to do a whole separate video because it's very long and dense, but it's flagrant and it's false. It's weaponization, and it's a go-to because it's totally subjective. There's no tangible test for it. You can't get a blood test. You don't have like brain, abnormalities that can be like measured. It's just totally opinion based, and it's not treatable, right? Like, with bipolar or schizophrenia or depression, you can medicate that. But labeling somebody with a personality disorder, especially borderline, because that's the one that's weaponized the most with women to try to discredit them, call them crazy. It's so subjective and just, anyways.
she thinks we're all part of a gang stalking group that's out to ruin her life.
Okay. And these are actual over the and see somebody.
And it was kind of accepted it at the time, and then now she thinks all of those people all along the way were part of the gang stalking group that were out to ruin her life, and they said that she had this to ruin her life. So
have you tried to? Is she currently or anything else like that?
No.
Have you at some point? Is she still seeing somebody?
No.
As far
she doesn't trust anybody.
Okay. The other route that you could do, and this is actually paperwork online that you could fill out yourself. You can actually fill out, go to mental health forms online, and I think there's a PDF form that you can fill out and print it out and bring it to the court, petition the court for mental health pickup.
So before I got the body cam footage, when I originally had gotten the police report and read it and saw that Officer Lamsma had suggested that my mom get a PPO on me, and worse than that even, that he suggested my mom file a mental health petition with the court for involuntary hospitalization in a psychiatric hospital, I was like, whoa, why are you going down that road? How did we even get there from a middle-aged woman telling you that she doesn't like what her adult daughter is posting on social media about her and her husband, to lock her up in a psych ward and get restraining orders on her? That's not what either of those things are intended for. That would be a gross abuse of both of those things. So that was extremely concerning. The fact that the officer would suggest those things, and how inappropriate that was given the situation, and for the sheer fact that he hadn't even spoken to me. Like, he was just taking her word as gold. Like, what kind of police officer are you? But as I learned 2 weeks prior to this police report that my mom made, if she were to go apply for a mental health petition court order to get me institutionalized, that wouldn't be the first time that my mom has done that. My narcissistic abusive mother tried to get me locked up in a psychiatric hospital. She tried to petition the court for involuntary hospitalization, and the judge granted it. However, I never got picked up by law enforcement, and I just found out about it. So here we go. I've been saying for a long time that my mom is trying to get me locked up, institutionalized in a psychiatric hospital. Nefariously, maliciously, not because there's any, there's no need for it. I don't have any type of, mental illnesses that, no, like that's just, no. Her goal and intent in trying to get me institutionalized is, one, to have me completely discredited. If I were to get institutionalized, I would immediately become non-credible in the court of law, and I would have that cloud looming over me going forward in anything that I say, and they can just point to it. And then additionally, there's financial benefit. There's several different ways in which she can profit off of me being institutionalized. There's just that vast corruption in healthcare. There's like insurance fraud and all that stuff, and there's money in it for her. So it's human trafficking, it's patient trafficking, it's really nasty. That's something that we'll get into, but for now, those are her motives, and I'm not bluffing on that. Like, that's what my life is. She filled out a petition for a mental health order for transportation and pickup and involuntary psychiatric hold. So, law enforcement would come and pick me up and take me against my will to a psychiatric hospital where, her goal would be that upon getting an examination from the psychiatrist there, that I would be admitted involuntarily and have to stay for a significant amount of time. And I only found out about this recently. She did this in September 2021. I found out about it May 23rd, 2023, on a whim. And immediately I went to the court and looked at the records, because I never got picked up. So I had no idea. I came across this. And I got a copy of the case file and saw her petition that she wrote. She lied, straight up lied. And I started reading up and doing research on the statutes and laws regarding mental health and involuntary hospitalization. So in order to get somebody involuntarily hospitalized, you have to have within the past 72 hours, because you can't just say back, months ago this person had this. It has to be present, because it's for emergencies, right? It's for dire straits. It's for there's no other option. So you have to have somebody with the authority and credentials, a psychiatrist, evaluate this person within a 72-hour window before filing this petition. And the evaluator has to find that, yes, this person does need involuntary hospitalization, this, they have to support their findings and say it's their recommendation, their opinion that this person is, needs to do this against their will. And then there's a tiny little catch-all where it says, if you put forth a good faith effort and, tried to get this person evaluated, tried to get them to see a doctor, and they just flat out refused, and you did everything you could do, and they just wouldn't do it, you can sign an affidavit and state that you did all that she could, tried, like gave a valiant effort, but this person was just non-cooperative and she just refused. So you couldn't. So there's no way you could have gotten an evaluation. But this person still needs it. It's that bad. Obviously, there was no conversation like that took place ever. There was no effort. There was no attempt. I had no idea this happened. So she said, you know, I tried and tried, but she refused. So that's why we can't. That's why I don't have a doctor's note with this. That's a flat out lie. I'm floored that she was able to do what she did. But as much as I'm sharing my story to protect myself in the event that, you know, tries to do this again, this is a warning for other people too, that this somehow is a tool that is being wielded as a weapon and is available to abusers.
I did do that once, 2 years ago when kind of this all started. And my ex-husband and I were both kind of on board with it, and I got it filled out and I got it okayed. And the woman told me that there's no guarantee. Like if they take her in, whoever she sees will say she's totally fine. And I said, but I have all this. I could show them. Yeah. They won't see any of that. And I said, no, I said she knows what she's doing.
But the thing is that also starts the ball rolling as far as
showing.
Yeah, exactly. So you could also do that. Yeah. There's also that avenue on top of obtaining a PPO. Since you've done it once, maybe try it again.
Yeah.
And yeah, there are some times where they take them in and it's just literally a revolving door.
It is, and that's what the girl told me. And I said, if she is not going to present,
but if she's in one of her or whatever, and she really starts displaying that to the cops when she walks into the hospital.
I know.
Yeah,
I know.
yeah.
That would be the best thing for her. It just.
I know, but there's no guarantee of inpatient hospitalization. But at least it would get her back on the radar for Network 180 or CMH. Okay. So at least in that way they can start getting with her and maybe potentially offering her some other services.
Okay.
And maybe that'll kind of ratchet everything down. Yeah. All right, so hang on a minute. Let me get some info for you.
So this stuff that I can put online, there's a website for that?
Yep. Just go to Michigan Community Mental Health Forums. Okay. And just look up mental health petition forms, or just Google Michigan mental health petition forms. Don't ask me what the form number is. We just fill it out right at the hospital whenever we take somebody in if somebody's got a major issue. Yeah. Let's see here. I'll deal with that later. At least in that way you will have something to start the process with.
And so there you have it. She literally admits she didn't go through with it because the lady told her that I would have to be evaluated by a psychiatrist upon being taken in. Cops would show up out of nowhere and just spring it on me, take me, right? Like, I mean, that just in itself is such a horrific oh my god, anyone that would put their child through that for anything less than an absolute emergency, like, you know, so that would happen and I would have been taken to a psychiatric hospital where I would have been evaluated by an actual, you know, psychiatrist, and the psychiatrist would have, you know, had to make the call on whether I actually had any mental, like, psychiatric problems. And my mom goes, oh no, like, they'll say she's fine. So she's saying that, oh yeah, the psychiatrist would have seen the truth, that there's no merit here, like she doesn't need to, I don't even know why she's being brought in, and would have let her go. So I decided to scrap it. That's what my mom's saying, like, oh, like, she knows. Psychiatrists would have seen the truth that there's no merit here. Like, she doesn't need to. I don't even know why she's being brought in, and would have let her go. So I decided to scrap it. That's what my mom's saying. Like, oh, like, she knows what she's doing. She's very smart. She would present herself as having no issues. Like, so because she might not actually get involuntarily admitted, once she gets there, the professionals evaluate her and say, yeah, there's nothing wrong with this girl, and they would have let her go. My mom said, fuck it, nah, scrap the whole thing. If she's not getting locked up for a significant amount of time and actually admitted, like, nah, I don't want it. That says it all. Also, when somebody needs to be involuntarily admitted to a psychiatric hospital, they're usually not able to just present themselves as having no issues. That's not really a thing. And per usual, this isn't fun to talk about. It's embarrassing, but I don't necessarily have a choice because it's just public record, accessible to anyone. And I obviously look at the way my mom is weaponizing it with her interaction with Officer Lamsma. Like, that's just one example that I can present here, but you know, how easy is it for her and Kuhn and the firm, my former employer, to go around and be like, yeah, you know, court found her mentally ill and entered an order for her to be involuntarily hospitalized in a psychiatric hospital. Like, that's a stain on my name. It sucks. It's unfortunate, but that's the way it is. Like, it totally looks really bad. And you know, in my situation, it's just another huge hurdle that I have to add to this already otherworldly, outlandish, like, nearly impossible to believe saga of bullshit. So now it's not only, you know, Rossi and the PPOs that Van Orden and Brizzolera got were corrupt, and I was wrongfully terminated, and, you know, this. Like, I'm just, now I have to say, yeah, and my mom falsified this mental health petition and the court somehow granted it. You know, like, it just keeps adding to the pot of these things that are hard for people to believe to begin with, because we're supposed to be able to trust those institutions and those processes. But it's just another nightmare. And it's just awful. Like, my mom has done a lot of diabolical things. This is, by and large, one of the worst. Because this is something that it sticks with me for the rest of my life. Like, I talked to the court, talked to the clerk, and you know, yeah, it said it's like a medical record. It sticks with you for the rest of your life. It's online. Anyone can go look it up. And that's another reason I hesitate to even, you know, put this out there, because I'm not trying to draw attention to it, but at the same time, I know that my adversaries, Kuhn, my mom, the firm, my former employer, like, all those fuckers are, you know, painting it and using it to falsely portray this narrative. So at least if I talk about it, I can take back control of the narrative, at least a little bit. But yeah, this is excruciating. I'm sick to my stomach to this day. Ever since I found out, it's harrowing, disgusting, really. But and so I have been working on finding recourse for this, not only in the sense of damages against my mom personally, but just trying to get this record removed so that it doesn't stay with me for the rest of my life.